It's Monday. That's what time it is. And you know what's the best part about this reaction Monday, Zach? At least we
What's
have a Buffs win to celebrate and hold near and dear to our hearts because it certainly wasn't the Broncos game. Listen, it's early in the season. And I know a lot of people are looking for something to grasp onto right now, not even hope wise, just who can we blame and whose fault is it really? Listen, it goes a lot deeper than one person or one mechanism or one unit on this roster. It is deep, folks, and that's what we try to go here at Let's Talk Broncos, deep in coverage, in our analysis, in our contributors. If you haven't already, and if you haven't done so, let's talk broncos.com for all of your needs, including Zach Seeger's very own stock up, stock down report, which we will cover and I'll let him talk about. But I did want to just uh, prop up our contributors throughout the week. So not only do you get us on Mondays, but you got Zach and Joey and a special guest on Sunday post game. Tuesdays, you'll get altitude adjustment. Wednesday, the trio's back. Thursday, full field read. You get a Buffs show. Let's Talk Buffs is up and rolling. You want to go over and check them out. Who am I missing? What am I missing? I feel like we have so much.
say altitude adjustment?
Yep, I got altitude adjustment. I think we have an open space for a Saturday. We'll see what we can throw at you next, coming up in the next couple of weeks. But Zach, talk to me a little bit about the article that you are dropping today. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm more in my writing flow now. I've made some good progress on it today. I'm excited. And last night and whatnot, it's coming along a lot faster. Last time it took me till Wednesday. That kind of killed me on the inside to get it out that late. This time it should be out tonight. I'm optimistic. Worst case, it'll be out tomorrow morning. There are some data points like ESPN's pass rush win rate and whatnot that I'd like to get from Monday Night Football. I'm using quoting some ranks and whatnot that are probably going to become inaccurate in a few hours here. So maybe tomorrow morning. But anyways, coming out a lot sooner this week. I love it. I've got some good positive nuggets on like Bo Nix, this Broncos defense, the special teams, and then your negative stuff too about the offense. A good deep dive on both fronts. So please check that out.
I'm glad that you considered it on the negative front because the offense is anemic, and I'm sure there's a lot to play into why that is. My biased, and I was in attendance obviously on Sunday, and what a home opener!
I'm
Not
impressed.
exactly what you wanted to see. White jerseys and all. As a fan, let me just throw it out first and foremost. My initial reaction as a fan is not again. And then also as somebody who's covering the team, my reaction is not again. So here we find ourselves asking questions of what's going on. Is it the inability to find creativity? Is it the lack of play action? Is it the um, having Bo Nix as your leading rusher in back-to-back weeks and not really having a run game to help bolster the skill set that you have in Bo Nix? LTB Muse wants to know, Joey, where art thou? Joey just doesn't have it in him. He doesn't have that dog or the fight in him. He decided today was the show he was going to miss. So that's on Joey. No, we didn't start the normal time to combat with Monday Night Football. We'll be coming at you on Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Gary Fire, thanks for dropping into the chat. Go Broncos.
Appreciate you, Gary.
Uh, it's going to be an interesting first 5 games. I could see them going now 1-5. Zach, how has your overall feeling towards the team shifted after 2 regular season games?
I think it's been sobering. It's like a little, yeah, it's sobering. I feel like, preseason training camp, I was out partying and it was a great time. Everything was flowing. And now it's the hangover and it's like, oh, this is reality again. Um, and this should be expected. I've been banging this drum some on Twitter today. And honestly, on our shows last week, this should be expected. When we were seeing like good signs in training camp, them lighting up the Packers in training camp, them looking so good during those 2 preseason games, or even the 3 preseason games. That was like a very pleasant surprise, but it was a surprise for a reason. This team is just so poor in terms of the assets they have to spend on this roster. And that's not to say there aren't other mistakes along the way. Both Paytons have made mistakes in terms of this roster construction, and those are really hampering the team now. But even if they were doing a great job, a flawless job, it would be very, very hard for this team to be successful. They have $11 million in dead cap more than any other team in the NFL right now. It's more than 20% of their entire, actually, it's more than 25% of their entire budget. They have way, way, way less to work with to build this team than literally every other team they're going against. Now, money doesn't necessarily equal roster talent, but the exception to that rule is generally rookie contracts. Your first round pick or second round pick, third round pick on a rookie deal playing phenomenally well. The Broncos have very few of those guys. One, because of some draft missteps. Again, the Paytons are both to blame there. But also because they haven't had the draft capital because of the Payton trade, as well as the Russell Wilson trade. So it's rough. It's genuinely tough right now. But I think this should be the expectation to an extent. And I keep going back to a point Joey made on last night's show. It was resonating with, or I was thinking about it during the game. And even after last night, I just can't stop thinking about it. I think this team was in a worse spot 12 months ago. We were having the exact same conversations then about Sean Payton, like, oh my God, what did the Broncos do? This guy looks washed. And then they turned this team around. And turnover luck absolutely helped that. Remove the turnover luck from the equation, and we still saw a lot of growth on offense, a lot of growth on defense. The offense, especially in terms of the run game, which is what this team needs right now. We're seeing progress from Bo Nix between weeks 1, week 2, regular season or preseason week 1 to preseason week 2, first training camp practice to last training camp practice. So I wouldn't throw in the towel yet, but we can also acknowledge our surroundings and that this is a sobering Monday.
Okay. I like how you worked your way back to that point because we did see it work itself out a little bit, and Mr. Rocket said he's kind of in the same headspace right now. I'm in a bit of it is what it is mindset. Obviously, want to see Bo progress, but the reality is that the 5-win projection was spot on for this team. Is just terrible offensively. So you're telling me they're offensive? I got you, Mr. Rocket. Well, I guess I want to know, Zach, from week to week, have you seen Bo Nix progress in a direction that does give you a little bit of at least an indication that it's moving in the right direction?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is concerning, D Bronx, but also we should note that passing an offense league wide is way, way, way down. And I do think we've seen Bo Nix progress from the first training camp practice, which we were both at, to the last preseason game we saw him. I think he took a big stride. What was really disconcerting to me in that debut game was how much of that reset and like just took massive, massive, massive steps back. The game's faster, the defenses are more complicated, but it really threw him for a loop in that first game. Still wasn't all that great in the second game, but we are seeing that stuff improve again. And we've seen him right the ship on like the footwork front before. To an extent, it does have to get a lot better. I'm not trying to downplay any of this stuff, but I do think we're seeing improvement. Like that first game is a historically bad game, like to D Bronx's point, and that's also going to drag down the first 2 games a ton. First game's historically bad. Since the merger, there's only 5 games worse from a yards per attempt aspect than that Bo Nix first start. It was really, really bad. This game, he comes out, he completes nearly 60% of his passes at 7.2 yards per attempt, which was it good quarterbacking? No, but I'll take bad NFL quarterbacking over like Paxton Lynch. Paxton Lynch was never an NFL quarterback. Like you saw him and it was like, that guy does not belong. And frankly, I think Bo Nix's first start was in that realm. It was real rough, especially the first half of that first start. Game 2 wasn't good. It was still an underwhelming game for a rookie quarterback, but I think it was, a big step in the right direction. It was functional to an extent. He was moving the offense in that fourth quarter. Um, so I don't know. I would be clinging to those things a little bit. I don't know. It's rough though. Oh, oh, what a day it is.
No
Reading
way.
your muted Maestus. Oh my God.
I want
Wow.
everyone to
Wow.
know.
All this talk about
Take
it's a
your
rough day in
victory.
Broncos country. It's a happy day. It's a joyous day.
Take your lap, create your banner, do what you want. I've been taking cold medicine, so I'm going to chalk it up to that. That's incredible. I saw StreamYard yelling at me that I was muted. Zach, you win today. It's been clipped. The muse is on the case. Um, I wanted to get, and it's not going to be your initial reaction, right? Because we've had 24 hours to digest a lot of this, but a really interesting clip that plays into a lot of the narratives I have was from Nate Tice last night, where there was no audio and there was the footage from the huddle of the offense looking not only slightly um, uncomfortable, but even downright confused. And that's obviously from an outsider's perspective of a very long play call coming in. But you're in a circumstance in which your rookie QB is up against a really tough defense. And I understand maybe the roster is handcuffed a little bit in what ability you have to run some of the plays that you may want to. But I want to know what your initial thought was. And in chat, feel free to chime in too if you've seen this specific video clip. I didn't get it loaded in time to play it for you all, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about here. The office is standing around as Nix has to double check a couple of plays or a couple of words to this play. I just want to know if that's setting up your rookie quarterback for the most success with the roster that you have, because I completely agree with your stance on the idea that the construction of this roster is going through some pitfalls, not only because of the cap that's available. Sean Payton is in his second year. He hasn't really had the opportunity to put his entire stamp on this thing. But to be honest, it's more Sean Payton's roster than it is anyone else's with the decisions he's made to cut and to retain the individuals that he's had. Why are we seeing the complexities here? Is that perhaps leading to the confusion and maybe the inefficiencies on the offense? And please tell me if you think I'm dead wrong, why I'm dead wrong.
I mean, I think there's definitely elements of truth to that. I think not only is the verbiage complicated, but I've been listening to Chase Daniels' podcasts on, because he knows the Sean Payton regime so well, and I think it's a good way to maybe get some insight there. And one thing he talked about a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago or so, was how Sean Payton calls in plays a little crazily. I'm not going to try and impersonate it because I would butcher it, but just very hectic, kind of all over the place. That's being a bit hyperbolic, but it was something where if you put yourself in the shoes of maybe a rookie quarterback, it could be a little like, whoa, that's a lot coming at you. Um, that said, I think if you look at that clip, um, it also shows, I guess Bo Nix struggling to grasp it. And I think, what were Bo Nix's selling points? His veteran experienced nature, the fact that he's able to maybe pick up a playbook faster, all that stuff. Um, so to an extent, yeah, I think it is making it complex, but I also think that's just part of the NFL now. The Shanahan system that's proliferating the league right now, and everyone wants a piece of. That's a West Coast offense. That's verbiage heavy. That's very complicated. Don't we all remember the stories of Drew Lock struggling with this stuff? Um, uh, I just it's kind of a thing in the NFL. I think it can be dumbed down some, but I also yeah, Cliff Kingsbury's calls are I'm sure are a lot more simplistic going into Jaden Daniels. Give me Sean Payton over Cliff Kingsbury every day of the week developing my quarterback. Oh my God, please, dear God. But like the Drake May is going to be dealing with the same thing. Michael Penix is going to be dealing with the same thing. If he plays, JJ McCarthy would have been dealing with the same thing if he plays. Caleb Williams is dealing with the same thing with Shane Waldron. I think really the only exception is Jaden Daniels. So yes, it's it'd be nice if maybe they could simplify it some. You want to give your rookie quarterback as many tools to succeed as possible. That said, I also think it's part of the game, and hopefully it's something that improves with reps. Yeah, like it should. One would think it should. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
I totally understand that. Thank you for everyone who's commenting right now. Keep it going. I'll continue to grab as many comments as I can. But I did also throw out on Twitter a check-in for all of Broncos country. So if you got to see that tweet, or if you didn't, go on over there, jump in, add your replies. I'm trying to answer when I can. But the idea was, how are you feeling? What's still lingering around? And what changes actually need to be made from your perspective? Paul said some of those throws he should have made, rookie or not piling on, just observing. What I observed too was a lot of drops, the inability for receivers to at least make something out of nothing. If Bo's going to be limited in pass attempts this game, you got to make what you can out of that. That's not the story from last week, where he's throwing 42 times. But if you're going to make that kind of adaptation, you have a Greg Dulcich out there who's struggling. You have dropped passes across the field. It's not conducive to success here. Paul, I appreciate you observing that. Zach, do you have a nice little depressive stat for that?
Bingo. Yeah, you know it. He is seventh right now in terms of drop rate, at 9.8%. So nearly 10% of his attempts getting dropped is very, very brutal. The people ahead of him, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Daniel Jones, and Anthony Richardson. The one thing I'd say about Anthony Richardson, he's trying to throw the ball through his receivers. It's a little bit of that, the old John Elway story that I'm sure so many Broncos fans have heard about, like the Elway cross and whatever. Anthony Richardson's got that, man. He's got a crazy arm. Still working on developing the touch, maybe. So I think his drop numbers might be inflated a bit, in the sense that I think he's to blame for a good number of those.
It sounds
Nonetheless,
like a good
though,
friend
top
of the
25.
program, Mario Vitanzi, with his ability to accelerate drop numbers and blame it on his receivers. Just
No
throwing it
touch
out there.
Mario. No touch Mario. That's what they call him.
No touch. I did want to pull another comment from that side as well. Tom Bosley said, unfortunately, I'm immensely disappointed in the running back room. Say what you want about the line, the wide receivers, or even Bo. The running game fell flat. It just isn't cutting it. These guys are not getting the job done. It's a far cry from what we were talking about in the offseason. And then, Zach, you told us our party days of training camp are over. It's not Javonte Williams season yet, but do you see that moving in a specific direction? Do you think it could get a little bit better? What's missing? What's lacking? And I have a pretty good feeling where you ranked this running back room after this week.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, they were one of my bigger stock downs, and really the run game as a whole. And I think there's blame on everyone. I don't think it's as simple as this is Sean Payton, or this is the offensive line, or this is the running back. So if they draft a running back, it's going to be fine. It's all of it. This offensive line is the third most expensive in the league. Their starting offensive line is the third most expensive in the league in terms of guaranteed money, and they haven't played anything like that. This team is 30th in terms of rushing success rate. That's a successful play on first down. You're getting halfway to the first down marker. On second down, getting half of the yards you need. And then on third down, it's getting all of them. That's a kind of basic way to understand success rate. They have the 30th ranked success rate in the league right now. They were 9th last year. In terms of rushing EPA, they're 25th. The disparity in those numbers is almost entirely fueled by Bo Nix's scrambles. The designed run game is horrible. And, Javonte Williams doesn't look like he's having the burst. Jaleel McLaughlin isn't having the same pop he has had last year. The line is much worse. But I think Peyton deserves a lot of blame for a lot of this too, because I think the schematic complaints against him are kind of bogus, if I'm being frank. I think the fact that this team, and William Catalano has a comment about it, but there's this team just doesn't look well coached, in my opinion. I think the scheme is fine. I don't think the execution is, and that ultimately falls on the coach.
It ultimately does. Thank you for filling that in. Before I continue on, I wanted to shout out to Luke Stir. I think I know this Luke Stir. In my opinion, Bo Nix will prove to be an NFL ready quarterback by week 7 if given some time. Agree or disagree? Luke, I think that he has to continue to make those exponential growing pains hurt a lot less. I think that by week 7, if you don't have a pretty good grasp on what's happening here, I mean, you've got the Bucks and the Jets away. The Broncos are notoriously bad on those road exhibitions. And then you've got the Raiders and Chargers back at home. After that onslaught, I think you have to have it figured out. Then I think you get the Panthers, right? You get a gimme, allegedly. I don't necessarily think that's going to drive a point home. But if you're not seeing continuous market improvement, then I think there's your answer. I saw a comment just and thanks for your donation. 4.99 is very we appreciate you. You didn't have to do that. I'll slide you a 5 across the dinner table on Thanksgiving. Let's see. I've lost it. But Zach, I know you had a point you wanted to get to.
Yeah, it's scary out there. This defensive slate, I know I've talked about it a lot. It's rough. I was looking at the defensive numbers through 2 games so far, mainly because I was curious about the Broncos. This Chargers defense through 2 games, and they played some suspect teams, Raiders, then Panthers. So let's maybe wait a bit for it to regulate. But this Chargers defense through 2 games looks amazing. And that was the week when, I had been talking about, oh my God, look at this gauntlet Bo Nix has in front of him. That was the week where I was circling, it should get a little easier this week. But, Jesse Minter's still a good defensive play caller in theory. It doesn't necessarily look like a cupcake anymore. Nonetheless, again, as we talk about maybe this idea of patience with Bo Nix or even patience with this offense, one thing I saw while looking at this, in their first 7 weeks, they play a top 10 defense every single week in terms of EPA per play. I'm pretty sure was the metric I used. Every single week, they're playing a top 10 defense up until that Carolina game. From that Carolina game on, they have 10 games. 4 of them are against bad defenses or like non-top 10 defenses. Now, that's still not great. That's only 40%. The fact that we're looking at 13 of 17 games against like really good defenses, a lot of that's being fueled by the AFC West, is really concerning. Absolutely. But the fact that the second half of the season is going to have, a rate where 40% of the time Bo Nix is playing a inferior defense as opposed to, or at least a lesser defense relative to the rest of the league, excuse me, as opposed to this front half of the season when that's going to happen 0% of the time. Every single week is going to be a gauntlet. Second half, it's almost a coin flip. And that's still not great. Still sucks that it's that hard, but it might be a little more real in terms of he might be facing closer to an average level of defense than he is off the bat here.
I
Oh,
did it again. Hey,
this is
I'm
the
muted.
best. This is
So
the best day. I need Brie on cold medicine every show. Let's go.
So also I have a little bit of a cough, so I'm muting myself so that the listeners don't have to deal with it, and I'm just getting my ass handed to me over here. You're welcome, LTB Muse. Clip that one too. Let's just make a highlight reel because it
I'm
happens
so
so
happy.
frequently for me. Damn it. I had a really good. Okay, I'm gonna lean in here closely and I'm gonna give it to me straight here, Zach Seegers. Uh, playing against TJ Watt, not a fun thing for anybody, right? So you're talking about really great defenses coming up for the Denver Broncos, but what about a pass rush? What about all those pressures, right? TB is nothing to uh, I guess shake a stick at, but you got Max Crosby breathing down your neck in just a couple of weeks. And then nearly the Broncos are losing almost both their tackles. It looks like Garrett Bowles is going to be okay, but Mike McGlinchey isn't, at least 4 weeks with an MCL strain. That doesn't bode well. The line was already looking a little bit shaky, and that was a lot of the responses to my tweet today as well, was highlighting maybe that there's not a whole lot of gelling going on. That new center in there, are the guards having some issues? Christopher Hart wants to know who we blame. Seegers first, Sean Payton second. Chris, I think you have those flip-flopped, but any chance to blame Seegers first, I will take it. Thank you for your comment, tuning in, and always being just a fun member of this LTB community. Where was I going with that, Zach? Oh, yes, the pressure rate and the offensive line. They were
It's bad.
struggling a little bit, and now McGlinchey here, let me ask this in a way that is as respectful as possible. The backup there probably going to be Pert, perhaps, or maybe Polcheski. McGlinchey was having a timeout there. How is this going to transpire for the next 4 weeks, in your honest opinion?
Probably not good. I think the upside is you'll learn about this team's tackle depth, and that is going to be very, very, very important. Garrett Bowles' contract is coming up, and they don't currently have a plan in place. I think there's a very good chance Garrett Bowles leaves this team this year. And Mike McGlinchey will be back next year. But whoever we see, maybe it's Matt Parrott, and Parrott's contract is up too, but he'll be easier to retain. He's that kind of, he's in that like I don't know, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Alex Singleton tier free agents that you kind of see like return back home. um Matt Parrott, I think, could be that guy. Alex Polcheski could definitely be that guy. I think there's a very good chance we see both of them in that right tackle spot. And right tackle is different than left tackle. Obviously, you don't need me telling you that. But nonetheless, this will be an interesting, I don't know, little taste of what the Broncos need to do this offseason at left tackle. We could be sitting here 4 weeks from now and it's like, oh my God, give Garrett Bowles all the money in Denver. Let him buy a mansion with 12 bathrooms. This looks so terrifying.
Hell, give him 13, Zach. Don't undersell it. Also, does this put more weight on the Broncos needing to make those draft picks there along the
Yes.
line?
Yes, they have to. It's way overdone. The fact this team hasn't drafted a tackle since 2017 is embarrassing. I bet they're the only team in the NFL to have that fact be true of them. Frankly, it's amazing it hasn't. Well, I guess it was all before the Mike McGlinchey era that you had like a rotating door of horrific right tackles. It's going to rear its head again. But on the left side, on the blind side, if they let Bo Nix walk, I don't think they have a good development plan in place. um Hopefully I feel differently 4 weeks from now, I guess is all I can say. Thankfully the Broncos are creating pressure at least.
Jacob Romano has given us some faith, some hope, and something to look forward as we're on this rebuild. I think this is the up and up. I think we're going up, ladies and gentlemen. But Jacob Romano says this is a really good tackle class too. I know him uh, and Joey. That's at LTB Joey, and Frankie and Robbie and Zach will all be giving us all of the draft capacity that we can handle. Guys, you may want to start now. We may be transitioning our coverage here a little bit as we take on
We
the
got the draft
onslaught.
tab. We got the draft tab all ready to go on the website. And I will say, Joey and I have already talked about maybe some draft plans for this year. I think our draft coverage this year is going to be even better than last. I think we're already best in Denver, but we're going to start doing victory laps now. So people should check that out.
Who could beat us? Who could beat the amount of draft coverage that we have, specifically from
Very
the
true.
Denver beat, specifically just for the who are the Broncos highlighting here? I mean, it's like you got the shoe in for recruitment. I can't tell you the ways in which we have you covered here for Let's Talk Broncos, including stats and mystery memes from LTV Muse. Zach Allen with an 18.5 QB pressure rate. Zach, is that good or bad? Zach Allen's a beast. I think that's pretty good.
It's remarkable. I don't have the other quarterback pressure percentages. Shout out to you, LTB Muse. I'm actually curious where you got that. If you wouldn't mind sharing the data, but it's ridiculous. I've got some very fun Zach Allen stats. He's going to be spotlighted very heavily in the stock up section of my article. Yeah, Bree, who's the best? Aaron Donald's retired now. Who's the best interior pass rusher in the NFL, in your opinion?
See, that was a great question that has
I'm
been
reading the
posed to me a
list.
couple of
Yeah.
times.
Well,
I thought I was muted again. I don't know. It would probably have to be Max Crosby.
I think he's on the edge, but like that,
He is on
that
the edge.
the I think one of the answers would be a
Aiden.
different AFC West foe. Chris Jones, Dexter Lawrence, another great answer. My
Ooh,
leading
Chris
question
Jones.
blew up in my face. Point being, Chris Jones, I think at least would be in the convo as one of the elite interior pass rushers in the game, elite interior players in the game. Chris Jones is the only player in the NFL with as many pressures on the interior defensive line as Zach Allen. They're both right at 13 right now. Zach Allen is top 3 in terms of pass rush productivity. I've cited that side a lot over recent weeks, but just kind of a per snap measure of pass rush impact. He's third right there now behind Dexter Lawrence and Grady Jarrett. Dexter Lawrence, who was mentioned in this chat. And then who else do we got here? He's third in pass rush win rate on the interior. I forget who he's behind on that one. But point being, he's playing like a freaking all-pro right now through 2 games. And I've never thought before that Zach Allen was an all-pro. I thought he was a very good player. Through 2 games, he's the best player on this defense, and he's playing at a very, very high level, an elite level, frankly, even when you consider how many talented interior defensive linemen there are in the league right now. It's a golden era for interior defensive linemen. And nonetheless, Zach Allen is playing at and producing at an elite level. That's one thing we can cling to, Broncos country, even if we're sad.
My answer would have been Hayward, just because I was having PTSD, but
Ooh,
I was
he's good.
distracted
At like
because Jacob was making
42.
me. I know. Uh, talk about crazy lengths of career. But Jacob made me think that I had said something that was going to get me canceled, but instead it was just the truth. You are going to have to start your draft coverage right now. I don't know what to tell you. It's just this is the state of the distinction in which we're in. We could be the. Nope, there's nobody worse. It's fine. I'm kidding. I am
Okay.
obviously the person that you come to when you want the little bit of snarkiness and I haven't gotten over my 24-hour throwing insults and kind of being dejected. I think it's going to be fine. Browntown said, and me watching Brie mother effers from chat getting paid for it. Popcorn emoji. Yeah, I don't need to yeet anybody yet, but the minute I do have to block somebody, I'll do it. Don't even tempt me. But hate views are hate views, and I'll take all of them. I am completely off track now. Zach, uh, I know you didn't have Bo Nix on a complete negative turn this week, right? You had him on a stock up. Who else joined Bo Nix in kind of the positive spin of things? Because I think we're
Definitely.
snowballing a little bit right now.
Yeah, that's good. Let's pull up before we crash into the side of a mountain here. Bo Nix was a stock up. Zach Allen was a stock up. Another individual I'll highlight, Riley Moss. Riley Moss, I think, through 2 weeks looks good. I know he had the defensive pass interference call that was pretty costly,
He
but
was
I
holding
think
hands with the other guy.
and I think it's a little questionable. Like it got reposted by this account called Rate the Refs, which all they try and do is kind of aggregate ref rage. But they're tweeting out all the questionable calls on Sunday. I frankly think pass interference was probably the right call here. But it's at least a ticky-tacky one, is my point. And even in spite of that, I think the thing that's really impressive with Riley Moss to me at his performance. Negative 0.4 coverage EPA when targeted. That's phenomenal. That's making that's like really, really good quarterback or cornerback play. Excuse me. Just shutting things down. He was targeted 4 times in that game with him as the nearest defender in coverage. 3 receptions, which again, not ideal. I don't think the 5th one counts because it was a penalty. So don't count that one. But outside of the penalty, 4 targets, 3 completions, but only goes for 17 yards. That's great. 4.25 yards per attempt, 5.4 yards per completion. From your boundary corner, you take that every single day of the week. He's a tackling king. He's near the top of the or all defensive backs in terms of tackles so far this season. And again, that coverage EPA number, that's so impressive because he gave up a free, what was that, 30-yard play. That set the team up in a scoring range, no less. That's going to be huge, a huge negative against Riley Moss, or positive coverage EPA. You're allowing when you're targeted a big positive play. All his other snaps were enough to counteract that a great deal. It's really promising for the Broncos. If you can come out of this season feeling like Pat Surtain, Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan, we're set at cornerback for the foreseeable future. And two of those guys are on super cheap contracts. That would be pretty exciting. It's going to be a rough season. That would be a genuinely exciting development.
Riley Moss was a little bit shaken up on that play too. Glad to see that that worked itself out well. Should be fine to go. The defense in general, though, doing quite well. Joey did miss his bold prediction though from last week. Prior to the game, was that Patrick Surtain would hold Pickens to 25 yards. I believe it was 29 yards. I thought that some PIs were going to play into that not being a thing. It turns out I was correct. So I don't know how we score for that one, but I would like an extra brownie point, maybe like a gold star
I'll put
affixed
a
to
gold
my
star.
record. Thank you. I really truly appreciate it. Not that I liked those calls whatsoever. Let me just tell you, there was too much black and gold at Mile High yesterday. I don't know who's responsible for that, but just as a fan first, I want to let you all know I'm disgusted. And if you sold your tickets to a Steelers fan, shame on you. I hope you stub your toe. Could not be me. I was sitting out in it. There's a chance, though, that people are really bought into the idea that this is like the last bit of the rebuild pain, and they perhaps don't want to sit through it anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, this is like my ninth season. I don't know anything else. So is what it is. We'll see what we can do on this. Any last Browntown, great question here. Did he hit his Singleton missed tackle pick? Uh
It's a great question. That's a great, great, great question. I've got to look it up. I
I
have the
missed my sacks. I don't
Ooh,
think we had enough sacks in the
I
game.
miss it. He only had one missed tackle. I needed at least three. So that's a bummer. He still, even with that one missed tackle, is one off the league. So kind of close to because I did say he'd be leading the league. I still would have needed two, but one would have got me at least that bit of the parlay checked off. So miss on there. I saw LTB Muse asking about the yak leaders on this team. That was something Joey and I were talking about last night, and I couldn't find the stat at
What
the time.
what yak?
Uh, yards after catch.
No, no, no. What yak? Like to be
Yeah,
had. Can you
yeah,
be
yeah,
a
yeah.
leader if you have three more yards than the other guy? Like does that counts, right? Like that's legit.
No, it's bad. It's really, really bad. The leader now, if you look at running backs, Javante, if you include running backs rather, Javante Williams is the leader, but that's a little dishonest because he's catching a lot of these out of the backfield, with defenders backed off, which is going to just inflate those yak numbers. If you look at just receivers and tight ends, the leader in yak is comfortably Lil Jordan Humphrey with 36 yards of yak, 9.0 yards after the catch reception. The next best, wide receiver or tight end on the roster is Josh Reynolds with 3.6 yards after the catch per reception, 32 overall. Then Devon Villay, 23 yards after the catch, 2.9 per reception. And then last, Cortland Sutton, 12. Yeah, 12 yards after the catch,
Um
2 per reception. Reynolds was between, or Dulcich was between Reynolds and Blay. I skipped over him. Whatever.
I just saw that Javante had 5 receptions, and now I'm like doing somersaults backwards, feeling like we have to have that conversation all over again, but we don't. It's just the running back room is in disarray. Tyler Beatty with exactly 1 carry. I feel like that needs to change. Is what Peyton is maybe looking for out of this running back room going to change week over week? Should we just throw consistency out the window when it comes to these running backs, which doesn't feel like what I would do, but perhaps that is in which the direction they must move in.
I don't know. I don't like it's tough. I hope the line starts to gel more, maybe would be like my it's scary right now. They've got a long, long ways to go to even get to like average. Um, And I really don't. I'm really at a loss why. I think some of it might be the offense or the passing game needs to open up some. I think teams are to an extent really daring the Broncos to pass it on them, and the Broncos haven't been able to make defenses pay for that dare yet. Um, hopefully as that progresses in coming weeks, if that progresses in coming weeks, the run game follows suit. But yeah, it's scary. I don't know. You need like, I, man, I think you have to try some of the giving these other backs looks like Beatty, Estime once he's healthy again. I'm not overly optimistic that's going to change much, but you got to try everything at this point. You got to be trying everything. Because part of why this is so disconcerting, Sean Payton runs one of the most varied run games in the league. He runs a lot of different looks. Maybe you could have that as cope as like it's kind of complex, and so maybe it's taking a bit to get rolling this season. But a lot of these players have already been in that offense for a year. And point being with the variety, they're struggling at all the different runs right now. It's not like, hey, maybe we lean into more zone or more duo or more XYZ, and that's how we get out of this. It's scary all around.
You got to try something different on all fronts, is what I'm saying. If it's not working, it's not working for a reason. And if it hasn't progressed week over week, I get it. It's only week 2, but I'm saying in the next couple of games, in the handful of I'm expressive now because I'm frustrated. If it doesn't get better, something has to change, and it has to change quick. Might as well be the run game, because that's going to be conducive to Bo Nix's success, and it's not going to be him having 90 running yards. I don't want to see it. And maybe it's leaning in a little bit to that, but that's not what we want. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get you out of here for this Monday episode of Let's Talk Broncos. We'll be back on Wednesday. But real quick before we get out of here, Eagles or Falcons, Zach?
Oh, Eagles, man, Kirk Cousins in one game made me go, oh, so that's why they picked Michael Penix. Like, yikes. I think they signed that free agency contract and immediately had some buyer's remorse. If Joey was here, I'd throw a bold prediction out and say that Michael Penix starts at least 5 games this season. I think we see a good bit of him. I think it looks rough for Kirk Cousins right now, and I wonder if he gets the shepherd's crook eventually.
Well, I hope it turns out differently. Wishing Justin Simmons well. But yeah, Kirk coming back off that injury. Now I see. Why would you pick? I don't know. That's a conversation for another night. Tune in tomorrow on Tuesday for Altitude Adjustment. Browntown, thank you. I will feel better. Tea is in my near future, and some more cough drops. And we'll see you back as a trio, hopefully, if Joey gets his shit together on Wednesday. Guys, we're on to week 3. Feels good, doesn't it? All right. Go Broncos or something. I don't
Shout out special guest RFK Jr.
know.
It still hasn't ended yet. I don't know why.